Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Given here, back in the video. This episode, we'll be taking a quick look at how to heal on the Holy Paladin in Season 3 for Mythic Plus of the War Within. This is mainly going to be geared towards beginners or just people who are coming back to Holy Paladin after a couple seasons and needing a refresher on how the spec plays. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So if you're brand new to Holy Paladin, you're not sure how they work, we work off something called Holy Power, and you can build up Holy Power and spend it on more powerful spells. So for example, I can generate some Holy Power with our Holy Shock spell. I can heal myself here, and then I can spend that on a Word of Glory, or excuse me, an Eternal Flame, which replaces our Word of Glory, and it will do a whole bunch of single target healing to me. So you notice I just spent those 3 Holy Power. Now, one thing to note about Holy Power is you never want to cap on it. So this caps at 5, and if you try to use spells at 5 Holy Power, you will not generate any more. So it's very important to never cap on your Holy Power and always keep an eye on it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Holy Power. Let's kind of talk about how we can generate more Holy Power. So first spell I'm going to talk about here is Holy Shock, which we just used. So Holy Shock can be used offensively or defensively. So trigger a burst of light on the target, dealing holy damage to an enemy or healing to an ally. Generates 1 Holy Power, you get 2 charges of this. So there's really not too much to know about it. It deals damage or it heals, and it builds Holy Power. Now, one thing you should know though is it has a chance to proc something here called Infusion of Light. So let's just read this out and I'll kind of show you what this is. Your Holy Shocks have a 10% chance to empower your next spell cast. This could be Flash of Light, Holy Light, or Judgment. So this makes Flash of Light heal for twice as much and become instant cast. Holy Light, it reduces the cost by 45% and reduces the cast time by 30%. And then our Judgment, we not talked about this yet, but Greater Judgment prevents an additional 150% damage dealt by the target and generates 1 additional Holy Power. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But typically, when you get this Infusion of Light proc, you want to use this on Holy Light if you need a lot of healing. If you need moderate to low healing, you want to use this on Flash of Light. And then the third best option is that Greater Judgment there. So I'll quickly show you what this looks like. We'll cast Holy Shock on ourselves until we get a proc. Okay, we got a proc here. You can see we got 2 bars on one on the left, one on the right, and you can see we get 2 stacks of Infusion of Light. So I could spin this 1, 2 on Flash of Lights, or I could have spent them on Holy Lights. So let's quickly talk about Flash of Light and Holy Light since we're on the subject. So Flash of Light here. Again, this is going to be your moderate to low healing spell. It's very cheap, very efficient to use, does decent healing. So we can use Infusion of Light charges on that. And then we also have our Holy Light, and you're going to use Holy Light when you need more healing. However, it has a very high mana cost, and it also has a longer cast time. So long story short, Holy Light for big healing, Flash of Light for low to moderate healing. And both of these will also generate so just kind of keep that in mind, especially if you're high on Holy Power charges, not to cast this too many times without spending your Holy Power. So everything we talked about so far is still a Holy Power generator. We've not talked about spending it quite yet. Let's go ahead and go into our Judgment here. So Judgment, this is on a 9-second cooldown. You judge the target, dealing some damage and preventing damage dealt by the target. Generates 1 Holy Power. So we talked about Greater Judgment earlier, and that's going to come right here. So Judgment deems the target unworthy, preventing the next damage, or preventing damage dealt by the target. So that's where that damage reduction comes from. So your Infusion of Light, if you use your charges on this, it's just going to make that damage reduction number higher. Next Holy Power generator I talked about is our Crusader Strike. So generates 1 Holy Power, 6-second cooldown. It deals a very small amount of damage, but you do want to be using this on cooldown because, again, it has a short cooldown and it generates this Holy Power. So you're kind of weaving back and forth between Judgments and Crusader Strikes in your downtime as fillers to just kind of passively build up some Holy Power. Okay, so we talked about your main generators. Let's talk about spenders now. So we have something here called Eternal Flame, and this replaces your Word of Glory. So this actually comes from our Herald of the Sun tree. It's one of our top nodes here. You see at the top, replaces Word of Glory, heals an ally for X amount, and also heals over time. Healing is increased by 25% when cast on yourself, right? So you build up these Holy Power charges, essentially, and then you spend it on Eternal Flame. And that's pretty much the only Holy Power spender you're using. You can also dump into Shield of the Righteous for a small damage gain, but 90% of the time you're going to be using this on Eternal Flame. There's a very large amount of single target healing to one target. So we've talked about generators, we talked about spenders. Let's kind of talk about how Holy Paladin is playing right now. So at the moment, we're running Beacon of Virtue over Beacon of Faith. And the way Beacon of Virtue works is it's a 15-second cooldown, and it will put beacons of light on a whole bunch of different targets. And a beacon basically means any healing that you do to one target will heal all the others. So let's fly up here to the top to some actual healing dummies and kind of show you what this looks like. Right, so we can go up to this, or right into the middle of these dummies here, and we can press Beacon of Virtue, and you can see all these targets, including ourselves, has a beacon now. And if we cast Flash of Light, everything is getting healed now. So basically, you have a 15-second window in Mythic Plus where you can heal literally your entire party, which is really cool. It's really unique. I prefer to play this way of Holy Paladin. It's more fun to me versus the traditional Beacon of Faith where you can have like 2 or 3 beacons out at once, but they're permanent. Much rather have the cooldown here and just give me a big burst AoE window. Right, so in hard content, you can pair your Beacon of Virtue up with big, wide group damage. Okay, before we go into cooldowns, I do want to quickly just kind of talk about a couple things, especially under Herald of the Sun. So we're running something called Dawnlight. Casting Holy Prism or Barrier of Faith causes your next 2 Holy Powers spending abilities to apply Dawnlight to the target, dealing damage or healing over 8 seconds. So this is mainly going to be proc through something called our Holy Prism, which is over here on the right-hand side. And Holy Prism is essentially the sort of beam of light that you throw out, and it can do healing and it can do damage, and you can place it on allies or you can place it on enemies. Now, 99% of the time, you want to be placing this on enemies because it will do more healing that way. You see right here, the second paragraph, if a beam is aimed at an enemy target, it deals holy damage and radiates 400,000 healing to 5 allies. Versus at the bottom, if aimed at a friendly target, heals for 1 million to one target and then radiates out holy damage. So you can technically use this for single target healing, but it's really mainly supposed to be used for AoE healing. I feel like you get more value out of it that way. Right, so this Holy Prism, we're not running Barrier of Faith, so this Holy Prism is how we're going to proc this Dawnlight, essentially. So just show you what that looks like is we can come into these dummies here, and I can cast Holy Prism, and you can see that we have procced our Dawnlight here in the top right. So your next Holy Power Spender applies a Dawnlight. Right, so we can come in here, and let me build up some more Holy Power. And we can heal this target dummy. And that heal applied, now you see we have 1 stack left of Dawnlight. So long story short, it's just more healing that you send out. Now Dawnlight's important though, not just for that extra healing that we just talked about. It's due to Sun's avatar down here. So during Avenging Wrath, you become linked to your Dawnlights within 30 yards. And this link sort of sends out beams, and enemies and allies that pass through those beams get healing or damage, depending, right, if it's an enemy or an ally. Right, so we can, just to show you, we can Holy Prism. We can, let's go ahead and Eternal Flame this target, Eternal Flame that target, and then now pop our Avenging Wrath, and you can see now we're linked to those 2 Dawnlights that we put out. We're dealing damage to this guy, and we're actually healing this target. You can't see it, but we're healing them as well. So I guess long story short of what I'm trying to say here is it's very important to cast your Holy Prism as much as you can, especially on pool, to get those Dawnlights out, and then to link up to them through a Dawnlight and your Sun's avatar through Avenging Wrath. Now, we haven't really talked about Avenging Wrath. That's basically your Paladin wings. That's one of the iconic cooldowns. So let's talk about that really quick. So if we come in here, type Avenging Wrath, you see we just use it. It's on cooldown. And basically, this is going to increase your damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 15% for 20 seconds, and it's going to link you to the Dawnlights that we just showed. So a very powerful cooldown, pretty much like a stat stick, essentially. You get all these increased stats. Very nice. We also have Aura Mastery, which we've not talked about this yet. So you essentially want to link up your Holy Prism with another big cooldown. So Holy Prism, Aura Mastery, Holy Prism, Avenging Wrath. And it's going to give you that big burst healing that you need in sort of a pinch window, right? So Aura Mastery empowers your chosen aura for 8 seconds. We've not talked about auras yet, but I'm sure most people watching this know what an aura is. You're always going to be running something called Devotion Aura, which reduces your damage taken by 3%. right? That's going to affect the entire party. It's really, really strong. Always make sure you have this up. But just to show you, when we pop our Aura Mastery, you can see right here, Devotion Aura damage reduction is increased to 12% for the whole party. So really, really strong to pop this in line with your Holy Prism, because that's going to give you a big burst of AoE healing along with this damage reduction. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about our blessings really quick as well. I saw this. So you can bless an ally for 30 seconds, causing their cooldowns to recover 30% faster. So this is specific to Blessing of Autumn. You go through all the seasons. You go through winter, spring, autumn, summer. And they each have their own unique effect. But to make this very simple, always use... If you're in Mythic Plus, always use your blessings on yourself. If you're raiding, it changes a little. Typically, your blessings go on the healer that's doing the most healing. In Mythic Plus, you're the only healer, so you're going to cast all of these seasons on yourself. Now, one that is specific is the Blessing of Summer, so let me get to that really quick. Okay, so here it is, Blessing of Summer. So Blessing of Summer, you're going to put on yourself as well. But what this does is you can put it on an ally who's doing DPS, and his DPS is converted into healing, or you can put it on yourself and your healing is converted into DPS. Typically, this is best used on yourself in Mythic Plus, unless you are really, really struggling to heal, then you can put it on an ally, but you want to put this on yourself in most cases when your cooldowns are ready to go. That's going to result in a higher DPS gain, which is what you're almost always after in Mythic Plus. You want to use your healing cooldowns to heal the content, and you want to use this as a damage amp when you can. Right, so when your cooldowns are ready, like your Avenging Wrath, you want to pair up a Blessing of Summer with that, and then go into your normal damage rotation, right, with a Crusader Strike, with the Shield of Righteous, with the Judgment, and all that damage that you do is then converted into more healing. Right, because if you remember from Avenging Wrath, it also increases our damage. It increases... It says in the tooltip, it increases your damage and your critical strike chance by 50%. So, long story short with blessings is just use them on yourself. Okay, I think I pretty much covered everything I want to discuss. I guess I didn't talk about our Divine Toll either. Let me talk about that really quick. So, Divine Toll here, 45-second cooldown, instantly cast Holy Shock on up to 5 targets within 30 yards. So, you can use this for damage or you can use it for healing. It really just depends on the situation. If you got a couple easy packs coming up, go ahead and use it on damage. If you need to heal through a specific phase, right, you can Divine Toll on an ally, and it will heal all those targets with a Holy Shot. Okay, another thing I want to talk about, just a couple more small things, and then we'll kind of get into your spell priority. We have something called Blessing of Anche that we can proc. Your spells have a chance to proc this. Your next Holy Shock will deal 200% increased damage or healing. So it's kind of important to know when this procs, because you'll overheal a target in a lot of situations if you don't know when this is proccing. Okay, so here it is. You can see it's ticking down with 7 seconds left. You can see our Holy Shock is glowing. When it glows, that means basically your Holy Shock is really empowered through Blessing of Anche. And then you also have something here called Awakening. So when in combat, your Holy Power spindles generate 1 stack of this Awakening effect. At 15 stacks, our Judgment will basically proc Avenging Wrath for us. So it's another way that we can proc this. You see right now we're sitting at 7 stacks. So if we continue to attack the enemy, and the way that you build these stacks is through our Holy Power spenders, right? So something like our Shield of the Righteous, something like our Eternal Flame. And once this reaches 15 stacks, our next Judgment will proc that Avenging Wrath. So we'll build up really quick to show you. Okay, now you can see we have Awakening counting down with 12 seconds. So you see our Judgment is glowing as well. That's another great indicator that you're about to go into wings. So when we press our Judgment, our wings proc, this would be a great time to use something like our Blessing of Summer, right? So we can benefit from that increased damage, healing, and critical strike. Okay, I think I've talked about most things. There's some other things with Paladin, like Blessing of Protection. I think the last thing I want to talk about here is our Blessing of Sacrifice. This is actually really important. And a lot of times this is overlooked. So playing Holy Paladin, you want to use your Blessing of Protection and your Blessing of Sacrifice, just your blessings in general. But basically, anybody who's taking high damage or has like a big dot on them, you can put this Blessing of Sacrifice on them and transfer the damage that they take to yourself. So it's very important to use the spell. And it's important to know who's taking the damage. You really don't want to put this on a tank too much because they take so much damage that gets reflected on you. You can actually kill yourself easily with that. But another DPS, they get a big dot on them. They're kind of struggling to stay alive, maybe a hunter or something. You can put this on them and take some of the damage for them. Okay, so let's kind of talk a little bit about actually healing. So we've talked about buttons and spells and abilities and how everything kind of syncs up. Let's kind of talk about, I don't want to say priority, because it just kind of depends on the situation, but just kind of typically what your general flow should be, and then you'll use your cooldowns and whatnot accordingly. Right, so let's say Mythic Plus pool goes out. Typically, you're going to be going in with like a Judgment and with like a Crusader Strike, and then maybe a quick Holy Shock, and that's going to get you to 3 Holy Power pretty quickly, and that's going to allow you to pivot if you need it into a quick Eternal Flame. Now, let's say not much damage is going out, so you're just going to continue to weave between these 3 spells, right? You're going to continue to Holy Shock if you need it for damage. You're going to continue to Judgment, and then once you get high on Holy Power, right, you're going to be spending it on either Shield of the Righteous or an Eternal Flame, and that's going to be building your Awakening stacks. Right, so not much damage is going out again, so we're just kind of sitting here. We're sitting pretty. We're using just a few spells. We're building Holy Power, and we're just simply spending it. So that's kind of what your filler rotation looks like, is you're just kind of sitting on 4 or 5 spells. You know, not much is happening in this phase. We're just kind of putting ourselves in a position where we could pivot. Now, one thing to note there is we were not hard casting Flash of Light. We were not hard casting Holy Light. So for the most part, you're going to be using these spells, right, when you get that infusion of light proc that we talked about earlier, right? This passive proc right here. Now, there might be some situations, right, where you come in here and you're going through your Holy Shocks, your Judgments, whatever, and you run out of globals. That might be a good situation or scenario where you can hard cast a Flash of Light or a Holy Light if there's literally nothing else to press. So let's say we're going through our normal rotation and there's a whole bunch of AoE healing that's needed. So we can go into a Holy Prism, into a Beacon of Virtue, into a big Avenging Wrath, build up some Holy Power, and we can start to heal with these Eternal Flames, right? And just kind of spam those as much as we can until we're out of Holy Power. Continue spamming. We have some Infusion of Light procs. We could do that on a Holy Light if needed. And that's normally a pretty good combo that you can utilize. So let's say there's another big round of healing that's needed, and let's say for whatever reason our Avenging Wrath is still on cooldown. Let's say our Mastery is on cooldown. You could go into like a Holy Prism, into a Beacon of Virtue, and then into like a Divine Toll, and then you can kind of go and spend a whole bunch of Eternal Flames that will do AoE healing, right? Because we popped a Beacon of Virtue. So I guess my TLDR with this is, you know, figure out your normal filler, figure out how to comfortably build Holy Power, comfortably spend it with your Eternal Flame, be able to react to Holy Shock, Blessing of Anche procs, and get some sort of tracker for Awakening so that you know when that's going to proc, so that your next Judgment will proc those wings. Again, when your Judgment glows, that's a good indicator that you're about to proc your wings. And then from there, anytime you want to send like a cooldown window to heal through like a big AoE ramp, send a Holy Prism, send a Beacon of Virtue, and then pair one more cooldown with those 2. Prism, Virtue, could be your wings, could be Prism, a Virtue, a Divine Toll, could be Prism, a Virtue, or a Mastery. So yeah, this right here is just going to be your sort of general priority list. This does not have cooldowns baked into it. This has a lot of things missing, to be honest. But it does kind of show you the general combo that we're talking about, right? You want a Beacon of Virtue with a Holy Prism whenever you can, and then from here, send that into some sort of cooldown. From here, you're going to make sure that you're not capping on Holy Power. You want to spend those Infusion of Light procs. You want to spend that again on Flash of Light or Holy Light, excuse me. Stay on top of Holy Shock, stay on top of spending that Holy Power, and then from there, you're just kind of filling with Flash of Light, your Judgments, get a Hammer of Wrath proc, and Crusader Strikes. All right, guys, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. See you guys in the next one.